Hi, I'm Siege from the Puma podcast team. If you like listening to this show and others created by our team, you can help us keep making them through our Puma Patak tip jar. Our goal is to get 100 of you, our friends, to make a contribution and show your support for the journalism and storytelling that we do. We're happy to keep making shows that you can listen to for free, but making them isn't free, so we appreciate any support you send our way. All you need to do is to go to pumapodcast.com where you'll find a link to the Pumapatak tip jar.
Hi, I'm Bella Perez Rubio, Puma Podcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka News. Balitang thinking, hindi breaking. In this episode,
You only earn the position of Speaker of the House if you can get the votes. Mr. McCarthy doesn't have the votes today. He will not have the votes tomorrow, and he will not have the votes next week, next month, next year.
for the first time in 100 years, the U.S. House of Representatives failed to elect a speaker on the first try. We talk you through that debacle and what it all means. After 14 excruciating attempts that stretched out over 5 days, Republican lawmaker Kevin McCarthy finally clinched the House speakership.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
But oh, the humiliation. The last time a House Speaker wasn't elected on the first ballot was 1923. Back then, it took 3 days and 9 ballots. And if we're talking longest ever Speaker vote, well, you'd have to go all the way back to before the Civil War, in the year 1855. I'm not kidding. Now, the Speaker of the House is elected by a roll call vote when the body convenes for the first time after an election. But usually, it's already agreed upon heading into the vote. This year, even before the House reconvened after the holidays, McCarthy knew he didn't have the numbers.
Several believe that one earns the position of Speaker by raising enormous sums of money, and there is no doubt that the individual that was nominated by Mr. Garcia is the LeBron James of special interest fundraising in this town. There is nobody better, but I would suggest that there are qualifications for Speaker that are far more important. There are attributes that are far more important.
That's Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. He led the far-right faction of Republican lawmakers who opposed McCarthy's speakership. Gaetz and 4 other far-right conservatives who called themselves Never Kevins dug in and flat-out refused to toe the party line.
Everything I heard hardened my resolve that this town desperately needs change, and if it's a few of us who have to stand in the breach to force it, we are willing to do so for as long as it takes.
Then the group grew to about 20 hardliners. Gaetz was even trying to get McCarthy evicted from the Speaker's office.
We also have to restore to the Speaker's office an actual person that ought to be in the Speaker's office, not the squatter who is currently there. And if the architect of the Capitol is listening, I sent a letter, and I would like to know what the basis is to allow somebody to occupy the Speaker's office who comes in second place 10 straight times.
Even the party's leader, former President Donald Trump, struggled to tip the scales. Listen to another far-right politician, Lauren Boebert, who represents Colorado's 3rd District.
Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off, I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw.
Why was it so important to get this out of the way? For the simple reason that until a speaker is elected, no House business can be conducted. We'll pause here, but when we return, we talk about how this debacle was finally resolved. Things came to a head after the 14th failed vote, when a supporter of McCarthy's, Alabama Congressman Mike Rogers, had to be physically held back as he confronted Matt Gaetz. A string of concessions finally brought the party's rebels to heel on the 15th vote. McCarthy swore in the new members of Congress and delivered his victory remarks past midnight.
That was easy, huh? I never thought we'd get up here. Hakeem, I've got to warn you. 2 years ago, I got 100% of the vote from my conference.
But the concessions McCarthy made give the most radical Republicans major leverage. One of the rules he agreed to allows a single lawmaker to call for his removal at any time.
Our system is built on checks and balances. It's time for us to be a check and provide some balance to the president's policies. Our nation is worth fighting for. Our rights are worth fighting for. Our dreams are worth fighting for.
But McCarthy's disastrous election gave everyone a glimpse of what a House ruled by a fractured and radicalized Republican Party might be like. Listen to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who represents New York's 8th District.
Today, for the first time in 100 years, the House of Representatives failed to organize on opening day. It's a sad day for the House of Representatives as an institution. It's a sad day for democracy. It's a sad day for the American people. House Democrats are unified, ready, willing, and able to get to work on behalf of everyday Americans. We are prepared to try to find common ground with the other side of the aisle to solve problems on behalf of the American people, but we don't have a willing partner in House Republicans.
Things were so out of control that Donald Trump himself, who is not a House member, was even nominated for the speakership on the 7th round of voting. Some analysts say this debacle delivered a small win to Democrats who lost control of the House last election, and that McCarthy's chaotic bid served to highlight just how effective his predecessor, Nancy Pelosi, was throughout her tenure.
Let me begin by acknowledging the distinguished gentle lady from the great state of California, the iconic, the heroic, the legendary Speaker Emerita, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. And without question in my mind, Speaker Emerita Pelosi will go down in history as the greatest speaker of all time. Throughout her time in Congress, she's been a legendary legislator, a fabulous facilitator, and a no-nonsense negotiator.
Pelosi was known for never bringing a vote to the floor unless she was sure she could win. A sharp contrast to someone who failed to garner votes from his own party mates a staggering 14 times.
A defender of democracy, a voice for the voiceless, and a powerful champion for the children, the climate, Charm City, California, the caucus, the Congress, the country, and the Constitution. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for all that you have done. It's an honor to stand on your broad shoulders.
So where does that leave the House, now under Republican control?
We're going to pass bills to fix the nation's urgent challenges, from wide open southern borders to American last energy policies to woke indoctrination in our schools. We will hold the swamp accountable. From the withdrawal of Afghanistan to the origins of COVID and to the weaponization of the FBI.
But it remains to be seen if McCarthy will be effective. He's working with a razor-thin majority and will surely be dogged by the rebels in his party, who are now all the more powerful. And after 5 days of watching Republicans implode, Democrats under the new leadership of Hakeem Jeffries are sending a message.
But I also want to make clear that we will never compromise our principles. House Democrats will always put American values over autocracy, benevolence over bigotry, the Constitution over the cult, democracy over demagogues, knowledge over kangaroo courts, liberty over limitation,
maturity over Mar-a-Lago.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was produced by me and edited by Carl Dave Sayat. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or two. And don't forget to follow Teka Teka and Puma Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. At para sa mga mahilig manood sa YouTube, Puma Podcast na rin po kami doon. Just search Puma Podcast and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.